When a person is on the verge of death, one will be deluded or in so much pain. How can one focus well on meditation to be liberated from samsara world to the bliss of nibbana? Yeah. When a person is on the verge of death, one will be deluded or in so much pain. How can one focus well on meditation to be liberated from samsara world to the bliss of nibbana? Okay. Okay. If we can, just cut off liberated from samsara to nibbana, the bliss of nibbana. Just meditation will do lah. When you're on the verge of death. Okay. All right. Now, perhaps there are people, there are people who are on the verge of death. Now, it could be sometimes something came up in the body, cancer, the doctor say, lagi 1 tahun, 1 more year, or 6 more months, or 3 more months, and then more or less it's this one. So, then this time their sense of urgency arises. Dying already, ma. Now it's not no more contemplation, now it's real already. Now it's really like really hit hard into you already. Then sometimes on the verge of death, let's say you are trying to develop as best as you can. Now, these things once in a while, I've seen this before. There are yogis come in because they are on this one already. So with that happens, we try to be compassionate and teach them. We know that it's not easy for them because firstly, they have to deal with their big cancerous or whatever disease that they are going through. Next, you still have to think about your meditation. Now, let's say here you don't even have to think about your disease. Meditation is already so difficult already. It's not as easy as you think. But now you have combined with both, both burden. So it's not it's not easy. But we admire their courage. We admire their courage. They do as best as you can, as much as you can. If you can withstand it during that time, all the pain that you may go through. But you don't expect that it's going to be things going to be normal like what you do. I mean, what other yogis are doing. Other yogis may not have this type of problem. You have this physical illness and so on. Then at times you may not able to meditate also. At times you need to rest, or to bear up with all kinds of pain that is coming up. So these things, when you say it's on the verge of death, perhaps this verge is a bit longer, so you can still able to meditate, not to say you cannot meditate. But a lot of times, yogi tend to not just want nibbana. Actually, they want the pain, they want the disease to be free from those diseases. Mostly, they come in with this type of problem. They want to free from that disease first. Now, when we are on the verge of death, let's say you got dying already. At that moment of time, I've seen yogis in the past, not many, of course. Once in a while, they're on the verge of death. They're also quite well practiced. Quite well practiced. Not to say they they have some development, some insights in the retreat. Now when it comes to the verge of death, then what are we going to do with them? They try to be mindful. They try to be alert. At that time, it's not easy for them to able to meditate as what we are doing right now. You know that even when you are at home, you also cannot even meditate like right now what we're doing over here. What more you are in the verge of death. Yeah? So during in the verge of death, what we can do only is that we are able to be try to be mindful and keep the mind away from all the unwholesome thoughts and try to keep the mind to a wholesome thoughts or try to be mindful of the present. It's easier said than done because I've noticed also when you're dying or some people are dying, then the mind is not clear. The mind is sometimes, due to the pain, they have to use morphine, and then that makes the mind very blur like that. Sometimes they are half awake, half not so awake. Some of them are quite awake. Some of them are quite calm. So now, this time it will be good if you have a good friend or a Kayana Mita beside you, or somebody who understands the Dhamma. Here, the somebody that understands the Dhamma, you have to give prompters. You have to prompt the person to stir up their mind. That is to say, perhaps, that if the mind can still be alert a little bit, then you help the person to recall back to something good that they have done. Perhaps they offer a monk's robe. Perhaps they meditated. Perhaps they've gone from meditation after meditation. Perhaps they've done a lot of dana or sila and so on. So you kind of like prompt them. Again and again, you prompt them. You prompt them for them to recall. Yeah? If this person likes to, say, do a bit of chanting, they like chanting. So perhaps sometimes do a bit of chanting for them. Some people doesn't mean that all Buddhists like chanting, Not all Buddhists like chanting. But chanting is part of the thing at the end of the verge of death. So here, sometimes if they are familiar with this type of voices, when they hear it, it prompts them to recall back to the wholesome states of mind. So you help them to pull the mind back. It's not easy for them to go into pull to recall all these type of things. Yeah? Sometimes if you are sick and your mind is already blur, like body is like no energy, terrible going, and then you try to note the mind and see whether you can recall anything or not. So it's difficult to recall. A few years ago, I have food poisoning. It comes with fever and all that, then it's completely flat. The mind also is not so easy to recall. I mean, I'm trying to be mindful. I know. What do I try to recall, try to be mindful, and so on? Well, it's taken a strong effort now. But after that, because of the bodily problem, and then after that, you go blur again. So if you have on the verge of dying, if you have somebody beside you, if you have, then try to recall it to help the person to recall all these type of things. Or perhaps that if there are monks around or people around, then you invite the person to come over so that at that moment when he's or she is clear enough to make him to do some offerings and so on. At least there is some present action, a present action without needing to recall, but a present action that you do something wholesome, then to make him or her to rejoice. And hopefully with that type of memory and she can able to hold on to it. And then if she pass away or he pass away with that, that would be a good rebirth, a better rebirth. Yeah. So on the verge of death, a lot of things we cannot do anymore. We can only do some, I mean, if we ourselves on the verge of death, sometimes a lot of things we cannot do anymore. Yeah. So don't wait until there. For the person who asked the question, don't wait until death. Uh, I know you cannot, sometimes we cannot convince all our loved ones to go and meditate. Uh. Not all our loved ones, all our family members want to go meditate. You go meditate, cheese in the way. You're crazy. I keep on go meditating for so long. There's something wrong with you, Yes. So the thing is that sometimes we see people on the verge of death and so on. Then we know that these things is they're missing out a chance. So we try to convince people when they're alive and so on. But honestly, we cannot convince everybody, even our loved ones. Uh, Sometimes it's just like that. We try our best, but it's just like that. So when it comes to the verge of death, then a lot of things we cannot help them. You tell them meditation, they don't even know what is meditation. First of all, maybe we just to tell them to do some recall something good, something more simple, in that sense. So that's about it only, the way I look at it. Uh, uh, what else? I'm not good at all this death one. You see, that sometimes people think monks are like, the saikong, like people when they die, then they have all these things, ting ting tong 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 chang 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 chang. We are not that. But there are monks who are professional in this type of things. They are very, very good in this type of things, but I'm not. Once in a while, I attend, once in a while, devotees, close devotees, I attend a funeral, do a bit of chanting. But I tell you honestly, I'm not a pro in this area. But with that, with this understanding, with this little limited understanding that I have, then with a bit of wisdom that I have, then I look at the situation, what can be done if I'm on that, on the dying side, Yeah. So this is about all I can say, on the verge of death. A lot of verge of death. Uh, okay, let me see what else. All right, nothing else. That's it. No more questions. All right, so we call it a night. We share merits. Idang me bawanang nibbanasa pachayo hotu. May my mental cultivation be a condition for the realization of nibbana. Imang no punya bagang sabba satanang dema. We share these merits with our departed ones, with all beings and all the devas. Sabbe satta sukhi hontu anumodantu. May all beings be happy. May they rejoice in these merits. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.